thank you to all the legislators who have put Iowans over these greedy pipeline companies. We need you to push your colleagues to do the same. And of course, thank you to everybody for braving the weather today to be here. My name is Kim Junker. My husband and I farm in Butler and Grundy counties. 2 years ago, we were notified that Navigator wanted to tear up one of our farm fields for their private profits. We said no, not on our land. We organized our neighbors to do the same, and they said no too. And now enough of us have refused to give up our private property rights that Navigator was forced to cancel its pipeline. But it's not over. We have to put laws in place to stop these corporations that refuse to take the hint and go home. Companies like Summit and Wolf. And we must make sure that this never happens again. No more Iowa land will be sacrificed to eminent domain for private gain. Our elected officials need to do more. Last year, a bill calling for 90% threshold of voluntary easements before eminent domain could be used was passed out of the House. That isn't enough. We need to stop these carbon pipelines right now, this session. No more excuses. Do what's right for Iowans. We deserve better. And we're here to demand better. Stop these risky carbon pipeline scams once and for all. It's time to ban carbon pipelines altogether. We need to validate our county ordinances and the rights of local governments to protect their communities. We need fair and balanced legal proceedings that don't demand we pay millions of dollars to keep our own land. This is what Iowans need. This is what we urge our state legislators to prioritize. We recognize it won't be easy. We're not only up against elected officials like Governor Reynolds and Majority Leader Whitburn, who are loyal to Summit, not the people of Iowa. But we're also up against a multi-billion-dollar industry that has repeatedly tried to use power, influence, and money to silence the will of the people. But it's going to take a lot more than a few $1 billion to halt our resolve and commitment to justice. We will hold our leaders accountable every minute, every hour, every day. We will not let them forget that their job is to serve the people of Iowa. It is their responsibility to defend our rights and champion our interest. The 150 elected officials in this building today will decide the future of our state. A future where corporate control and egotistical greed are put before the needs of the people. Or a future that prizes individual liberties and the will of the people. We will not settle for half measures, empty promises, or weak excuses for another legislative session. If our leaders aren't capable of defending our rights, we'll elect people who can. We demand our legislators honor their oath and uphold the Constitution. Stop this exploitation of the Fifth Amendment. Ban the abuse of eminent domain by for-profit carbon pipeline companies. We have had enough. We have drawn the line. Let me make it clear. This is our land. our rights, our Iowa. No more corruption, no more carbon pipelines. Before we hand it off to the Free Soil for their program, remember that it's not just our state legislators we need to pressure. This issue needs to be addressed at every level of government. We must demand national action. Our next president must commit to ending the tax subsidies that have incentivized the corrupt carbon capture industry. Our next president must stop handing over billions of dollars in grants for this proven to fail technology. And they must stand with the people, not the wealthy elite, by opposing eminent domain for private gain. Now, ladies and gentlemen, would you please stand with me for a prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance? Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us all here safely today. Thank you for this great country and for its bountiful resources. We humbly ask that you give us the strength, the guidance, and the wisdom to carry out your will in protecting this great nation. We know that we face many challenges and obstacles, but we also know that you are in control. I pray that our elected leaders look to you for guidance and discernment in the choices they make. Be with the speakers here today, and their vision will shine a light and be used to honor and glorify your name. Be with the people in the audience, that they will find inspiration in what they hear today. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Now we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. Now I'd like to introduce, have Helen Mims come to the stage, please.
Can we please stand for the national anthem? Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam?
Thank you, Miss Mills. That was beautiful. I almost expected a line of jets to fly over after that. Okay, the next speaker is someone who I've come to know in the last few years,
Yes, I missed you at the end.
Good to see you.
and I consider him to be a dear friend.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
He's one of the hardest workers I know.
Thanks.
When he sets his mind to something
I'm going to sit down
and
so
believes
we don't distract
wholeheartedly
everybody. That sounds good. Good
what
to
he's
see you.
doing is right.
Good to see you. Thank you. I'm going to sit down
He
so we
knows
don't
that
distract
these
everybody.
pipelines,
Yeah.
CO2 pipelines,
Thank you. How
and
are
the
you?
use of eminent domain
Good to
are
see you.
unconstitutional.
Is that okay? I
And
just
he
want to
is
distract
committed
everybody.
and dedicated
Thank
to
you.
standing up against this violation
Good to see you.
of our private property
I saw you up at
rights.
Spencer. Thanks for
Will
coming
you
back.
please help me
Appreciate it. It's
in
good to know that.
welcoming
Yep, good to see
the
you.
Honorable
Thank you. Thank you. I
former
appreciate it.
Congressman
Thank you, guys.
Steve King.
Good to see you. How are you doing? Good to see you. Woo!
Thank you all very much.
Woo!
That's a good welcome. It makes me feel really good. I want to say to Helen, wow. I mean, I had to wipe my eyes before I came up here.
Yeah.
That was the most moving national anthem I have heard in person in my lifetime. And I turned over to the bank and I said, move over Whitney Houston. We've got a new star in town. I'm going to keep this portion of it short. I'll have an opportunity to speak a little bit later. But I just want to hit a few points quickly, and then I'm going to make an introduction. But some of those points are this. They're right here. No eminent domain for private gain. And some of the background on that for me is, as a former chairman of the Constitution Committee in the United States Congress, they handed me that gavel for a reason. That's because I believe this Constitution as strongly as anyone I ran into in Washington, D.C. What I've seen some of them do, though, is take an oath to the Constitution. I don't think they cross their fingers behind their back when they do that, but they don't really mean it. The Constitution means what it says, and it means what it was understood to mean at the time of its ratification by the people that ratified it. You don't get to change the definitions. You don't get to do something to reanalyze it. It's what they understood. And as a contractual guarantee of our God-given liberty that gets handed off to each generation, our job is to preserve, protect, and defend it against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I can tell you there's an individual here that has been doing that for many, many years. And he's a Marine. He's a former drill instructor. He's a very, very principled man. And I want to say here to this crowd that Steve Holt, when he looked at this circumstance and this Constitution, he could see that there were political minefields all over this Capitol building. And you're going to hear more about them. There are minefields in the House. There are minefields in the Senate. There's a minefield in the governor's office downstairs. And so he did his very level best to thread the needle to write a bill that got us closer to the Constitution and had a chance to defend our constitutional rights. For that, I'll be forever grateful for Representative and Marine drill instructor. And I want to welcome him. He's gonna do a little bit here on this stage, and I want to thank him publicly for the work he's done, for the friend that he is to me, and the times when we need to confer and get our and I'll say get reset on our Constitution without conflict. We're in solid agreement on how we approach this thing. He's a champion for this cause. Please welcome Marine and Representative Steve Holt.
Thank you. I've done a lot of soul searching the last few weeks. I mentioned my appreciation for Vivek Ramaswamy earlier in my remarks. Vivek cared so much about this fundamental constitutional issue that he dedicated an entire town hall to it. He was, to my knowledge, the first presidential candidate to bring focus to this issue, and it shows his love of the Constitution and his courage in fighting for the rights of the people. It is in keeping with his campaign theme, truth. Thank you, Vivek Ramaswamy, for taking this bold stand for one of our most fundamental freedoms. I said I've done a lot of soul searching. I've been incredibly moved by Vivek's message, most particularly his profound statements regarding the challenges our great country faces. and the acute identity crisis our nation is facing as a result of the unrelenting assaults on our national character that break my heart, and I know the hearts of most people in this room. Vivek has rightly pointed out, right now it is not morning in America. This, our shining city on a hill, is in trouble, and we all know it. As Vivek has said, this is our 1776 moment. It absolutely is, and my conscience compels me to announce that this United States Marine will not miss this 1776 moment. I am supporting Vivek Ramaswamy for president. I will do all that I can to ensure that Vivek Ramaswamy wins the Iowa caucus on Monday. I believe with all my heart, and he said it way better than I ever could, but this is our 1776 moment. And this is our 1776 candidate who stood up for private property rights in a profound way. It is my honor to introduce Vivek Ramaswamy.
Thank you, Steve. Wow. Means a lot to me. We're not going to let you down. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here, guys. We're not going to stop till we get this job done. We're here for a reason. I want to say, first of all, thank you. I did not expect Steve to do this a couple days ago, but he and I have been talking about this issue and what it means for our Constitution. From Steve King to Steve Holt, to many people not named Steve who are here today, who have had the passion for what's right in this country and our Constitution. That's why I'm in this race. To stand up for truth. To stand up for our constitutionally guaranteed freedoms. And the questions come up, why is a presidential candidate talking about an issue that's specific to the state of Iowa? The answer is this. The next U.S. president absolutely has the power to put an end to the use of eminent domain for private gain, including for this CO2 pipeline. And that's what I'm here to tell you about, what I will do for you as your next president today. Thank you for the warm welcome. Now, the heart of this issue starts with a climate change agenda that absolutely is a hoax because it is hostile to the sovereignty of the United States of America. That's what's on the table today. The sovereignty of our nation. Our sovereignty as citizens of this nation. The reality is, we now have an anti-carbon cult in the United States of America that causes us to apologize for who we are and what we actually stand for. The same people who will tell you they're against carbon emissions in the United States are somehow perfectly fine with emitting carbon into the atmosphere in places like China. The same people who will tell you that they're opposed to carbon dioxide emissions in the United States are opposed to nuclear energy in the United States, which is the greatest form of carbon-free energy production known to mankind. And so the reality is this is more than just about an anti-carbon agenda. This is about hostility to our own modern way of life in America today. But this issue goes deeper than that. Should we be emitting subsidies from the federal government to local private actors to be able to get paid to remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere? Of course not. That's crony capitalism, and we deserve to stand against it. We should not want government lobbyists determining, many of whom we're probably, hearing in the halls here today, but in Washington, D.C., to be able to determine the right policies for our country. That's not right. It's not what we stand for. But more importantly, we should not allow those private companies to then use eminent domain to seize the land of innocent farmers. And I think what's at stake here is if they can use eminent domain to seize your land on the basis of taking carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, to build a pipeline in your backyard that you didn't want in your backyard, then they can use eminent domain to take your gas stoves, they can use it to take your combustion engine vehicle, they can use it to take your cow, anything else that could be used as a basis to seize your land. That's a violation of our private property rights, and once we lose our private property rights, we don't have a country or a constitution left. That's what's at stake right now. Now, I want you to ask the question, why isn't any other Republican presidential candidate that's competing for a win in the Iowa caucus able to say a word about this issue? And it comes down to one word: corruption. Our system has created a class of politicians who are bought and paid for by a set of special interests. They think they report to the mega donor class, when the reality is they report to us, to we the people. That's what's actually at stake today. Do we the people create a government that is accountable to us or not? I say we do. We the people create a government that reports to us. We the people elect a government where the people we elect to run the government should be the ones who actually run the government, and that's no longer the case today. So let's go through exactly how we're going to push back against this. The first step is eminent domain is unlawful as applied to carbon dioxide emissions because it is not for a necessary or public use. The Fifth Amendment of the Constitution of the United States says the only context in which you're allowed to use eminent domain is if it is for a public use. Now, Kelo versus City of New London got this wrong. Raise your hand by way of show of hands if you're familiar with the case I'm referring to here. 5-4, the Supreme Court had one of the most disastrous cases it's ever held in our national history, when they said that they expanded the Constitution, which says it has to be for a public use that you use eminent domain, to say that, you know what? Now it's only if it is for a public purpose. In that case, it was one of our favorite companies. I'm sure you all have a favorite company called Pfizer that was looking to build a new plant in Connecticut. And they said that this was a public purpose that was sufficient to allow Pfizer to take a pink house from a woman that has now been razed to the ground and countless private property and homes of others. And that was what the Supreme Court held 5-4. But Sandra Day O'Connor, God bless her, may her soul rest in peace, wrote a dissent along with Rehnquist and Thomas, who actually understand the Constitution of this country, which said that if you can use eminent domain to seize the land of people in Connecticut for Pfizer to create more jobs, then you can use it literally for anything, for any major company to seize any private companies, any private property, even when the government had nothing to do with it. And that's a perversion that would make our founding fathers roll over in their graves. George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton and John Jay are rolling over in their graves, and they were when Kelo versus City versus New London was decided. Well, the good news is we live in a state right, you live in a state right here in Iowa, we're in a state right here that has adopted, in Punteni versus Iowa Utilities Board, has adopted the Sandra Day O'Connor, Rehnquist, Thomas view that says that in the state of Iowa to use eminent domain, it has to be a public use. A public purpose is not enough. Well, take the CO2 pipelines making their way across half the state. Take the Summit pipeline. Take the proposed Navigator or Wolf pipelines. Those are not the government actors, though they might act and like they want to behave like ones. These are private companies for the private gain of a select number of actors that are using eminent domain reserved for public use. That's illegal under state law. And I want the people in this room, and I'll be right there with you as you do it, to make sure the Iowa Utilities Board does not grant the right of eminent domain to a private company. And if they do, take it all the way to the Supreme Court right here in Iowa to stand for what is right. We say hell no to this vision. Iowa's Supreme Court already got it right. Take it all the way there and settle it. Now, if we don't get that right, I want to say you still have the Supreme Court to take this to next. And if I'm wrong about this issue, let's say that you could use eminent domain to build a pipeline across farmland, then we've lost our sovereignty altogether. They'll say, well, maybe Iowa needs this because the ethanol industry needs it, and if we're going to get those federal subsidies from the federal government, then we might as well at least get the money because it leaves this state better off. That's what the other side will say. It is a lie. Right now, they're, to the ethanol industry in Iowa, selling us the rope today that they will use to hang us tomorrow. California has already said they want to eliminate the combustion engine vehicle in a matter of 10 to 15 years. Yet the reason they supposedly are adopting carbon capture here is to meet the carbon intensity scores of entering a California market. That's wrong. We reject that. Now, the other reason is that you're getting a federal subsidy. Well, the federal subsidy is based on a climate change agenda that absolutely is a hoax. So what's the point of receiving those subsidies if it ultimately eliminates our modern way of life? That's the answer. As your next president, here's my pledge to you. I swear an oath to that Constitution. And it is my job and duty to keep an oath to the Constitution, not to any other crony capitalist unconstitutional law that's been passed. And so my pledge to you today is that as your next president, I will refuse to transmit any subsidies to any private actor, including in this state, if they are using eminent domain to violate the private property rights of citizens. That's how we put an end to this. And you deserve a president who does what is right for not only Iowa farm owners, but for private property holders anywhere throughout this country. That is what is at stake in this election. Your president can actually solve this problem if we get this right. But it takes somebody with a spine to stand for our Constitution, to stand against crony capitalism in this country. And that is why I am here today. And I want you to ask a question, because this gets to the heart of what's wrong with our politics and our Republican Party. Where is every other presidential candidate today? Where is Nikki Haley? Where's Ron DeSantis? Where's Donald Trump? Where's Kim Reynolds? We deserve to understand where our own proposed leaders are on an issue that actually affects us. We've done several of these rallies throughout this state. It has been my honor to be part of this movement. The first time we did it at the Holiday Inn outside the airport in Des Moines. You guys remember that? Many of you were there. That's where this began. We began to send shockwaves across the state. We went everywhere from northwest Iowa to southeast Iowa, where I was yesterday, from the northwest to the southeast, from Summit to Navigator, wherever it is. People understand this issue across the state. Yet if those of us here understand it, if farmers from the northwest to the southeast understand this issue, why don't your Republicans in this state, the people who work in this building, understand that issue either? Let us be heard. Let we, the people, be heard. And today I'm here, I'm going to have some real talk with you. This is 5 days before the Iowa caucus. At every one of those events, from the Holiday Inn here in Des Moines to the northwest to the southeast, I wasn't here to talk to you about my candidacy. But I am today because the other candidates have had their chance. They all know about this issue. Every one of them has since been asked about it. Thank you to the hard work of the likes of Steve King and many of you here in the Free Soil Project who have worked tirelessly to actually raise this issue to the forefront of our national conversation. Steve actually asked me if I would be willing to do it, and you know what? I said it's the right thing to do. I made a pledge to Steve, and I kept it at the 4th Republican presidential debate, talking about this issue. Kathy Stockdale, others who have Kim Junker, who are here today. We brought up your stories on a national stage because every other candidate deserves to answer to what you are facing now. But the candidates have now had their chance. And what we've heard is radio silence from everybody else on this issue. And so today on January 10th, I'm telling you, January 15th is the Iowa caucus. I'm asking you for your help to do what's right for this country. And I want to lift the curtain a little bit to how this game is played. The other side coalesces. I don't mean the other side in terms of Democrats. Forget Republican versus Democrat. Our Republican Party is at least as bad as the Democrats on this issue. Right? This isn't Republicans versus Democrats. This is the Great Reset versus the Great Uprising. This is about the sovereignty of our nation versus a globalist cult that is hostile to our modern way of life. I could care less about black versus white or Republican versus Democrat. If we don't have our Constitution or our sovereignty, what's the point? The rest of it doesn't matter anymore. What I want you to understand, because I see this firsthand, the other side coalesces. The people who write the checks, they close ranks. They endorse each other. They write their checks and they actually scratch each other's backs. There is a reason, it's not an accident, that the other Republican candidates haven't talked about this issue. It's because the people who write the checks, the most powerful people in this state, the governors who choose to not only be opposed to not only to favor eminent domain for the carbon capture pipeline, but to tell the people they endorse to make sure that they adopt the same positions too. That's the dirty way this game is played. I'm speaking some hard truths here, but you got to see this for what it is. That's why other good candidates for U.S. president, other people who privately would agree with me on what I'm saying here today, don't have the freedom to actually say it. But if we want to win on this issue, we can't just go on and in our life on January 15th say, yes, you know, I agree on this carbon capture pipeline issue, but when it comes, I vote for, we're seeing the hats of other presidential candidates here today who haven't had the courage to stand here for you. And so I'm asking you to think independently here. You want to take our America First agenda to the next level. I'll tell you, the people who care about these pipelines, they close ranks. They know how to get their agenda passed, and they will support and prop up the puppets who advance their agenda. I'm nobody's puppet. I'm not here to ask for endorsements. The ones that have given to me, I'm grateful for, and we take them. But if we actually want to win on this issue, we can't just be here today and then go home and say, hey, I'm still going to stick to the person who spat in my face, called themselves a Republican, and then we see no change, and you're going to build that pipeline right across not only the backyards of farmers in this state, but then it goes to everybody else across this country too. That's the hard truth our Republican Party needs to wake up to. Our party has become lazy. We have lost what we actually stand for. We can criticize the left, we can offer our standard talking points, but when push comes to shove on the hard issues, ask yourself why I'm the only candidate who can say certain things to you. To tell you that I will strip pharmaceutical companies of their special liability exemptions for vaccine manufacturers because it's the right thing to do for this country. The only person who can tell you that Ronna McDaniel needs to resign as the failed chairwoman of the RNC after 5 failed years of leadership. The only person who will tell you that I'm not going to build some new grand building for the FBI, but that I'm going to get in there and shut it down because it's the right thing to do for this country. The only person who can tell you that I am opposed to this CO2 pipeline, which will not happen on my watch because it is based on crony capitalism and a climate change agenda that absolutely is a hoax because it has nothing to do with our climate. To tell you, thank you, that we will stand for private property rights, that I will pardon every peaceful January 6th protester on my first day in office because it's the right thing to do for the United States of America. We stand for the citizens of this country, not any other one, the United States of America. People who walked into a Capitol building like the one we're in right now, if we don't get this right, every one of you is going to be arrested for the same reason 3 years from now. We have to stand for what is just in the United States. So I'm asking you on January 15th to do the right thing. Even if it's a little different than what you thought 3 months ago, even if it's a little different than the hat of the candidate you wore in here today, don't vote for somebody who looks the other way in the hour of need. Vote for the person who speaks the truth to you. If you want somebody who's going to get in there and shut down the deep state, somebody who's actually going to speak truth to power, then vote for the candidate who is going to speak the truth to you. That's what I'm asking you for. And if you all do your part, I promise, I made you a promise at the Holiday Inn, and I'm here to reiterate it, and I will keep it. You have my word that regardless of what happens in this election, this country has blessed Apurva and I with an American dream that my parents never imagined when they came to this country 40 years ago. We're in a phase of our life. This is now about passing that on to our kids. You have my word. I said it in Des Moines a couple of months ago. I'm going to say it in Des Moines again today. Regardless of what happens in this election, I will be right here with Steve King and Steve Holt and the Free Soil Project to see this through, to make sure we protect private property rights in this state, no matter what happens in any election, because it's the right thing to do for this country. To sue and to win and to take this to the Iowa Supreme Court and to stand for justice for landowners in this state and across this country. You have my promise on that. We will stop at nothing to do what is right for you. I'm here to stand with you on an issue that's bigger than me and bigger than any other candidate. But the reason I'm asking you to do what you're doing in 5 days and in the next 5 days is that we have a chance to get this right once and for all, to see Kelo versus City of New London overturned as a president who actually swears an oath to the Constitution and keeps it. We are up against the other side, not just in our party, not just beyond our party, the other side, the side that favors the Great Reset, that will favor each other when push comes to shove. In our movement, the movement that's in here today, the Free Soil Project, the actual true future America First movement, we can't say what we say today and then show up on January 15th and do something different. The America First agenda does not belong to one man. It does not belong to Donald Trump. It does not belong to me. It belongs to you, to us, to we the people of this country. So I'm asking you to do the right thing for our country, to stand for that, go into the future. You have my word. We will not stop when we get to the White House. This will be a day one item to make sure that we have an executive order that stops the flow of funds to any private company that's using eminent domain, and that includes this state. 45Q, 45Z, out the window. It doesn't matter on my watch. You have my word on that on day one, but I am asking you to do your part. And if you all do your part, oh, you again. Well, I gave you the mic last night. I'm going to give it to you. What would you like to say?
Thank you for standing with this and opposing the CO2 pipeline. Will you oppose all pipelines so that everyone has a right to a better future and landowners are protected regardless of pipeline type?
So she's asking a question that I think is a fair question. I acknowledge it's a fair question. I want to repeat it so everybody can hear it. We're here to oppose the CO2 pipeline. She asked, what about other kinds of pipelines, such as the Keystone Pipeline or otherwise in this country? This requires us to get to truth. What is true? And this is why I said, starts with the fact that the climate change agenda is a hoax.
Liar! You are a liar!
I am not a liar. I'm speaking the truth. So I'm going to make a deal. I'm going to make a deal with you. We're in the State House. We're in the House of the People here. So I'm going to make a deal with this woman. What's your name? Olivia. Olivia, I'm going to give you the microphone for 60 seconds. I'm going to let you make your point. The deal is you're going to let me respond to it and be respectful to everybody else who's here. Are you going to agree to this deal?
Yes.
Okay, if you pledge to agree to that deal, I'm going to give you the mic and you get to ask your question for 60 seconds and I'm going to address it. Thank you.
Ramaswamy has said multiple times that the climate change agenda is a hoax.
Yes.
But I'm from Cambodia. I have seen it destroy my country, the famines, the droughts. He thinks you're all stupid. He's lying to you. Look at each one of his facts. Look at it all. They're all funded by fossil fuel agenda. Nope. You need to understand that this man thinks you're stupid. He thinks that he can lie to you and get away with it. But he can't. Because fossil fuels are destroying my future. They're destroying your future. How can you look at your children in their eyes and tell them
Thank you. All right, I've given you your chance.
To my country and people.
So we agreed on the deal. Thank you. Thank you. Do you have a question?
All pipelines, regardless of type.
Thank you.
You had your chance to ask your question, and that's what makes this country beautiful. We agree on free speech and open debate. She has the right to speak her mind. And any opinion is fair game in the United States of America. Now, for my part, I disagree with your opinion. I think that the climate change agenda absolutely is a hoax because it has nothing to do with the climate. I'm going to state some hard facts. You know what? You know who my biggest donor is? My biggest donor is me, so I don't report to anybody else. No, we made a deal. We made a deal. We're going to keep the deal. 98% reduction in the climate disaster-related death rate in the last century. That's a hard fact. There's more green surface area around the earth today than there was a century ago because carbon dioxide is plant food. That's the real carbon capture of how our earth actually works. 8 times as many people are dying this year, including last year, of cold temperatures rather than warm ones. So if you're asking me, am I going to oppose fossil fuels because of an infinitesimally small rise in global surface temperatures? My answer to that is absolutely not. I will not bend the knee to this new religion. What we have right now is the disappearance of faith in this country. Oh, this was the one from last night. You had your chance last night. You've been heard. Thank you. No, leave them be. You don't have to remove them. Yes, you get a question. And so, yes. Right here. Got a question.
So, hi, Mr. Ramaswamy.
Thank you.
My name is Grace. I am a young voter
Thank you.
whose community is being poisoned by a methane gas pipeline.
Yes.
When you become president, can you commit to protecting our lands and communities like mine so that fossil fuel industries do not pocket at the expense of my death and my community?
Yes.
I pledge to you to end crony capitalism of all forms in the United States of America. That's my pledge to you. Has the oil industry, and I want to finish, has the oil industry lobbied for special exemptions? Why don't we have consumer choice at the pump? It's because the oil industry has lobbied for it. That's unjust, and I stand against it. Are there violations of private property rights for reasons that go beyond the CO2 pipeline? You're darn right there is. Pfizer should not be stealing somebody's home in Connecticut to build over that line a plant for Pfizer, which they never actually built. So I stand for all forms of protecting against private property rights, but I will swear an oath to the Constitution and keep it, including the Fifth Amendment, which says it must be for a public use. A private company should not be able, and I'm going to say something that I think everybody in this room agrees with, even the 2 ladies who just asked the question respectfully. I don't think any private company, including an oil company, should be able to use eminent domain. A company should not be using eminent domain, period. It is exclusively for a public use. I don't care if you're on the left or on the right. I don't care if you're black or white. It cannot be for just a public purpose. It has to be limited to what is a constitutionally met test for a public use. Public purpose will not suffice. So I will stand by that principle, left or right, and that's what it means to swear an oath to the Constitution and to keep it. Thank you. Other questions we'll take as well. Thank you. So I reject the myth that people are dying because of the use of fossil fuels and climate change. That rejects truth. More people are dying today of bad climate change policies than are dying of climate change itself. That's the hard truth in the United States of America and around the world. And so, no, I will not bend the knee to this climate religion. I appreciate the questions. I'm going to take some other few questions before we wrap up as well.
But my family members are dead and I cannot see them anymore because of fossil fuels.
I'm sorry for what your family has been through, but at the end of the day, we're here to talk about swearing an oath to the Constitution and keeping it, climate change. The climate change, You know who people who don't deserve to die? People around the world that aren't actually having access to energy right now. People are dying around the world because of absence of access to fossil fuels, absence of access to energy. So it's not humane. It is inhumane and wrong for us to say that people in the United States of America should not have access to affordable, reliable, and accessible energy. I stand against that, and I thank you for voicing your opinion and asking a question. But at the end of the day, we have to be able to have respectful, open debate. Thank you, and I appreciate it. We'll take a couple more questions before we wrap up. Sir.
I just wanted to lighten the mood a little bit.
Sure.
I came here, I wanted to specifically ask who Vivek the man is as a husband and as a father. Apart from political campaign life, what does fun look like for you and your kids?
Yeah.
When y'all go out and hang out, and you and your wife go out on a date. Like, what does that look like? I haven't found it anywhere on YouTube, and I'd love to hear it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know if Apurva is still here. She's probably shepherding our little boys to nap time right now. But one of the things that we do is we raise our kids with the same convictions that our parents raised us, which is God puts each of us here for a purpose, actually. And it's our duty to realize that purpose. And part of our purpose here is to actually stand by the unit of our family. And so everything we do it as a family. Right now, fun has looked like riding a campaign bus around half the state. And we've had a lot of fun with that as well. But one of the things is no matter what we're doing, whether it's doing this political campaign, whether it's actually one of the sacrifices Apurva made to go to actually treat patients even in that first wave of the pandemic as a throat surgeon in the ICUs, whether it's something serious, whether it's something lighthearted, whether it's riding the campaign bus, we do what we do as a family. And I think that's part of what we've lost in this country is the family as the foundation that we're built on. The nuclear family, it shouldn't be a bad word. It's the best known form of governance known to mankind. And so we'll play sports. We'll have, teaching our kids how to play the piano, how to play tennis, give them lessons. We'll engage. Apurva and I have begun to participate in the process of homeschooling our 2 young sons. We're proud of actually standing for the values that we want them to learn from a young age, and we're proud of the way we're doing it. But, what I've learned is it's not what we're actually doing that makes it fun. It's the fact that we're doing it together. And I think that that's one of the lessons we've taken away in this journey. Has it been grueling to visit 390 different stops in this campaign? We've been to all 99 counties twice, some of them 3 and 4 and 5 times. Yeah, logistically that has its challenges, but for us, that doesn't feel like work. It feels like that is us having fun as a family because we know we're doing it together and we're doing it for a purpose. And our 2 sons, I don't know if they could tell you exactly what it means to run for president. My older son's 3.5. He could tell you that I'm running for president, but I think he knows that it's something important that we're doing. And I think if we can pass that on to our kids, on that campaign bus, one of the things that's happened in the last month is it was a beautiful thing to watch my 3.5-year-old son learn the Pledge of Allegiance to this country. He sees us say it at the start of each of our events, and to see the next generation swear allegiance to that country, that's actually been probably the most moving part of this campaign to me, is to see why we're doing this. It's for our 2 sons and their generation. And if I'm to close on this, because it's actually not a bad question for me to end on, we don't have to anymore be this nation in decline that sees the trampling of our constitutional rights right in front of our eyes. We don't have to be at the end of this ancient Roman Empire that it seems like we've become. I think the truth is, as a nation right now, I'll tell you what I told you at the Holiday Inn. As a nation right now, if George Washington were here right now, what would he tell us? He would tell us that our nation, like our sons, is really still a little young. That we have another 250 years still left in us. That we're still not a nation in decline, but a nation in our ascent. So as my friend Steve Holt told you, it's not morning in America right now, but it can be. It's not that the American dream is alive and well right now. It's not. It's alive and hanging on for life support. But it can be. And so in closing, if you all do your part, and that's what I'm asking you for. That's what my friends Steve King and Steve Holt now are traveling across the state asking other Iowans for. If you all do your part on January 15th, I promise you, Apurva and I and our family we're going to do ours to make sure that our country's best days are actually still ahead of us, to make sure that you still get ahead in this country with your own hard work and your own commitment and your own dedication, that you're free to speak your mind at every step of the way, that you don't have your private property rights trampled by a government coming from on high. And if you do, then I'm confident that our country's best days are actually still going to be ahead of us. We will not stop until we get this job done. I want to congratulate the Free Soil Project and everybody else in this room for getting this far. You will not stop until you achieve justice. I am with you at every step of the way. May God bless you and your families and our United States of America. Thank you all for welcoming me. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. And Steve, thank you for everything. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Come on up here, Steve. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Good group. Good group. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate this. Thank you. Wow. Thank you, Steve. Love to have you on that bus. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to coming tonight, I think.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care. Thank you. Hopefully in the next few days we can spend a lot of time together. What's that? Where is that? Okay, where do you want to do it? Yes. Let's do it. Yeah, thank you. We're going to do it. Thank you. Hey, how's it going? Good to see you.
Thanks for not calling the cops on me.
Oh, I mean, like, who does? I didn't call the cops on them. I'm not going to call it on you.
That's why I tweeted. I was like, I'm inside. It's the only one that hasn't called the cops on me yet. Aside from Trump. So, good to see you.
Good to see you. How you been? Good.
Doing well. Really
Good to see you as well. How are you? Good to see you, guys. Thank you. Where do you want it? We'll maybe bring this back here. We'll come back here. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hey.
Good to see you, buddy.
It's good to see you, man. Thank you. How you doing, Scott? Good to see you, brother. Thank you, man. How you been? Good. You want to join us for the gaggle? Yeah. We can do it right here. We're going to do this press gaggle right here. I'm going to do this doorsteps right here. We can just do it right here. Yeah. Trisha, we could just tell. Just tell Trisha we can just do it back here. Yep. Thank you. Why not? Time-wise? Is that what's next? Is she there? Oh, I'd love to get there. Okay, let me see if we can get there. Okay. We'll try to make it if we can. We're going to try to make it to our event in Marshalltown. We can see if time permits, but I have a chance for a few questions before we wrap this. We'll start with you.
Your rivalries, Sanchez and Haley, are participating at a debate tonight. Are you concerned that you're not qualified?
Not at all. I think that's the biggest fake debate ever had in presidential politics. Probably one of the most boring debates yet as well. I'm confident we'll get more viewers at our live town hall and live show with Timcast and the Tim Pool podcast. We're going to do that tonight. And I think that's going to get far more viewership and have far more impact than that fake CNN town hall. But I would say shame on CNN for artificially tilting the scales, eliminating multiple RNC qualifying polls. Multiple polls that the RNC used to qualify for the last debate stage were purposefully discounted after my CNN town hall, including, you guys can look it up, the morning consult polls where I've been ahead of Nikki Haley in places like Iowa. CNN has decided they don't want the people of this country to hear what I actually have to say. They cut the town hall that I did off 5 minutes early. They censored on YouTube, taking down that town hall while leaving Nikki Haley's up. So their shenanigans, their election interference, frankly, in this GOP caucus in Iowa has been transparent. It's naked, it's ugly. But the good news is we're not playing that game. It seems like a pretty useless and boring event anyway. We're going to do it our way. We're reaching the people directly. And I'm confident we're going to deliver a shock to the system on January 15th. And CNN is going to have to eat the words of their own corruption. But it's worth the people knowing how rigged this game is. Ask them why those RNC qualifying polls were excluded. It was specifically with the intention of keeping me off the debate stage. Shame on CNN, and you're going to actually have a little bit of surprise that comes tonight.
Trump is suggesting that Nikki Haley shouldn't be able to run for president because her parents were immigrants when she was born in the U.S.
I think Nikki Haley shouldn't run for president because she's corrupt, because she has made money as a military contractor while advocating for foreign wars, because she has left and used her connections at the UN to make money for her own family, that she's joined the board of Boeing after scratching their back, for years as governor of South Carolina, that she has given secretive foreign speeches abroad making millions after she was in debt when she left the UN. And shame on the mainstream media that has actually a puppet of a candidate that they refuse to scrutinize. Those are the reasons why, the same reason Joe Biden should not be the president of the United States, collecting $5 million for Hunter Biden to sell off our foreign policy to places like Ukraine. That's the same reason why Nikki Haley should not also be eligible to run for president. Neither Biden nor Haley, two sides of the same coin when it comes to that level of government corruption. So that's why I'm against it. Two more questions. Can you say your question louder?
There's videos going around Iowa, Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley kicking Laura Loomer and other people out of their events. You allow people to say, what do you think about Ron and Nikki's?
I think that there were videos. I was shocked. Like, I thought this was maybe made up. You see sort of AI-based videos. I thought it was a joke. That police officers were used to kick a journalist, one of you, out of events. Shame on Ron DeSantis. Shame on Nikki Haley. It is un-American to kick out any journalist. I had protesters at this event. I gave them the microphone. We believe in free speech in the United States of America. And if you're unable to sit across the table from an independent journalist, Laura Loomer or anybody else, you're not ready to sit across the table from Xi Jinping. I think that is un-American. And I think it's no accident that the same people who won't face off with typical questions for journalists are also among those who say they want social media accounts and internet accounts to be tied to your driver's license. That is equally un-American as well. It is Orwellian. And so that's something that I say, shame on any Democrat or any Republican. I will face anybody who disagrees with me. That's what it means to stand for the Constitution. I'm also proud, if I may just say, to invite my friend Steve Holt, who we've only gotten to know each other in recent months, I'm grateful, switched his endorsement from another candidate to me today, and I'm proud to have his endorsement from now to the finish line. And Steve, thank you for that, and it was an honor to have your support. I don't know if you wanted to say a couple of words.
Well, I just want to say for me, this is about his message and about how his message inspired me. The things he said and have been saying resonate with me in a very deep way. It isn't morning in America anymore. We know that, and he is brave enough to say that. And he's brave enough to point out the challenges we're facing in a way that no other candidate is doing. And the truths that he's put out here, 10 truths that he's put out are truth. And so it was about his message resonating with me. This is a conscious reflection now because it wasn't something that was easy for
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate you being here. Thank you. And I'm honored to have Steve Holt's endorsement.
President Trump's lawyers yesterday appeared to argue that presidential immunity would protect him from potentially assassination of political rivals. Is that concerning, and do you have a response to that?
I'm not going to, this is such a dishonest framing of that. Presidential immunity applies to the outer bounds of presidential acts while in office. And I believe that these prosecutions are persecutions. What they're doing to President Trump is wrong. I think it is a persecution. I'm dead set against it. And that's where I stand, is these are using novel legal theories that have never been used before to persecute a man who should not be under prosecution right now. The people should decide who runs this country. I'm running to be the next president. It'd be a lot easier for me if Donald Trump were eliminated from contention or from competition. But I'm not in this race to win that way. I'm in this race to win through the front door. And I think what they're doing to him is wrong. I've stood against that at every step, and that's what I stand for as well. I mean, better late than never is all I would say. What I'll do for all Americans, revive the American dream in this country, pass that on to the next generation, get ahead through merit, without anybody telling you need to be held back based on the color of your skin, which is actually what's happening at universities or elsewhere across this country. Thank you. Can you grab that for me? And then, what's that? What's that? Oh, absolutely. We're going to the distance. I'm gonna deliver a shock. We're in this to the very end, and I'm going to be the next president of the United States. That's the answer. Thank you. Hey, where are we headed? Hey. Good to see you guys. I'll sign your book. Yes, yeah, real quick, sir. Hey. How you doing, Laura? Good to see you.
Yeah, you as well.
How you been? In person? I feel like I've always ever seen you on a TV screen.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
That's ridiculous that these people kick you out of events.
I know.
Did they actually, did you actually scream or anything?
No,
or not?
I was just standing there.
Literally,
and I didn't even ask a
not even
question.
like the people here.
No, I
It's insane.
To do that.
Well, I mean,
I turned for the Q&A. And
it's
I
insane.
showed up with the affidavits to ask Nikki Haley about, she says this line. She likes to have this line. If I would be a good wife,
Thank you. I appreciate it, sir.
If I'm a good wife and I'm a good mom, I'll be a good president. So I brought the affidavits with me, right?
Of which ones?
Of the men
Oh,
that
my
signed
goodness.
the affidavits. And I was just standing there. I didn't even say anything, and she had the cops called.
But somehow she's going to be ready to sit across the table from Xi Jinping, she
think
thinks.
so.
Yeah, exactly. Is it going this way? Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you. Hey, Robbie. Oh, thank you. Hey, Robbie. Good to see you. Thank you, guys. Good to see you guys. Huh? Yes, let's do it. Absolutely.
Great.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And I don't know if you heard my response in there about some of the lawsuits and everything else. I've said it every step. These prosecutions are disgusting. And I'm the only candidate who's actually standing up to it for truth and what's right.
You have like 30 seconds really quick to record a quick video and I'll
Sure,
blast it? Okay.
sure.
I guess, yeah, do you want to do it really quick? Great.
Thank you.
All right, let me know when you're ready. So I'm here with presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy, and I just want to say thanks.
And I just want to say I'm actually pretty happy that Steve Holt just switched his endorsement from Ron DeSantis to me here at this event, and so I'm feeling pretty good.
That's great. Obviously, I'm a Trump supporter, but I want to thank you for valuing free speech because as an independent journalist, I have had the cops called on me by Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis. And I want to say that, Vivek Ramaswamy truly is a free speech candidate, just like President Trump. And one of the reasons why I respect you is because you're one of the only candidates in this race who isn't trying to take advantage of the weaponized government for
disgusting.
the sake of trying to disenfranchise Donald Trump and his supporters. And so what do you think about that? Because I see a lot of Trump supporters at your events.
Should we come in here a little bit?
Yeah.
This is a little quiet.
I see a lot of Trump supporters attend your events probably because they also have that same sentiment about, respecting the fact that you are anti-weaponized government.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I stand for America First principles, and a lot of the candidates who are supporting me, their second choice is Donald Trump. A lot of the candidates a lot of people supporting Donald Trump, their second choice is me. I'm the overwhelming second choice favorite as well. So it says that there's two America First candidates in this race. And I think what they're doing to Trump is injustice. It's wrong. I said this just at the press conference over there as well. I've said this at every step of the way. We should decide through the front door who the U.S. president actually is. I'm increasingly worried they're not going to let this man get anywhere near the White House, which is disgusting. But I've stood against this at every step of the way. And to your first point, Laura, I don't care what your affiliation is. At least you're an independent journalist and you actually are open about who you stand for. What's more pathetic is the rest of the so-called mainstream journalists who absolutely have decided to prop up one candidate at all costs while pretending to be neutral. That's actually what's disgusting and deceptive.
Right.
And to bring back that free speech culture, there were two people who were protesters here from the left. I gave them the microphone. They get to speak. They get to be heard as long as everybody else gets to be heard too. And I think it is nothing short of disgusting that you have other presidential candidates. Was it Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley that kicked you out of their own events?
Yeah, and my contributors as well. They threw
and
in
I
my
think that's
contributors into a
un-American,
snowstorm.
and I don't think that's what we should be doing in this country. So thank you. We're going to go here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you being here.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you.
There you go.
Hey.
We're going to go through the other door.
Oh, okay. Go to there. Okay.
You lead it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing?
We got to do something with Fox.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Right in here.
But they need to go in the other door because it's sensitive information.
Okay. Got it. Got it.
Just meet them over there.
Okay. Got it. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. We're going to walk over here, but I have a couple gentlemen that want to meet.
Hey, man,
Good to see you. We met on the way in. We met on the way in. It's good to see you guys. Good to see you guys.
I really appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
I've been following you for a while. And
Thank you. No, let's just do it right here. I think we could go in the office. You want to do that?
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do that. It's a little nicer. Yeah, it's kind of.
I just want to introduce myself. We might have to.
I love your message.
It's good to see you. Thank you.
But
Thank you. You have to what?
We might have to cover it just to make it look like we didn't go to like a different site. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yeah. You're with Fox?
Yes.
Okay,
I'm
got
the
it.
producer.
Thank you. You have to cover it, meaning what do you mean?
Just kind of put some B-roll on it so it looks.
Oh no, let's do it out here then. Let's not do that because we want to actually see us while you're doing the interview, right?
Yeah.
Rather than TV cover. Okay. What's up? Yeah, let's just do it out here.
Do you want to? Where do you?
Because she said it looks like we're doing it at a different site now. They want to do it out there.
You wanted? No, this is fine.
This is fine. Okay, got it. Cool. That could be pretty nice.
How you doing?
Okay, we got it. Oh, is that what this is? Oh, I see. I totally mixed this up. Can we actually do it in the office? Yeah, that'll actually be. Yeah, thank you.
Let's do that.
Oh, this is the.
Yes.
Okay, I think can we actually do this outside? Outside is the place to do this. No, Patricia, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I'm gonna do this outside. We don't do.